Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan, and today we're going to be talking about some huge Tomas Hertl trade rumors and a potential trade fit with the Montreal Canadiens. Now, we've heard a ton of trade rumors recently about the San Jose Sharks centerman, most notably coming from Kevin Kurz of The Athletic, who's already leaked so much information on Evander Kane situation, but now we've seen a ton revealed about Tomas Hertl situation that could lead to a potential trade as soon as this offseason. But one of the latest trade rumors and news surrounding Tomas Hertl, could we see a trade very soon, and could the Montreal Canadiens possibly be in play? Watch till the end for all the info and all the trade rumors, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 60% of the people watching are not subscribed. If you like hockey, this channel is the place to be. Now, on top of giving us all the details we need to know about on the Evander Kane situation, Kevin Kurz of The Athletic also put out a great article detailing the whole situation around Tomas Hertl, if we could see a contract extension or a potential trade this offseason, or at the NHL trade deadline this next year. And it was super fascinating because when it comes to the contract extension situation in San Jose, it's quite a bit blurry. And Tomas Hertl, according to Kevin Kurz, hasn't talked with San Jose at all for a contract extension, at least not yet. He wants to see how this next season plays, how it rides out, and if the San Jose Sharks would be a part of his future. And although he does say that he hasn't really been shopped around too much yet, Tomas Hertl could be a guy that if the San Jose Sharks do fluster, especially next season, at the very least could be a guy they could end up getting rid of and getting a pretty big haul back. But also, again, could be a player that's traded and gone before the season even starts. And the number one reason why Tomas Hertl could be traded before the season starts is Evander Kane. And the last time we updated this story was another Kevin Kurz article talking about how most of the team hates Evander Kane's guts, and if he doesn't go away, if he isn't off the team by the season starts, a lot of them could want out of the San Jose Sharks organization. And we now get confirmation from Kevin Kurz that that might be the case with Tomas Hertl. He says this in the article. Multiple sources have indicated that Hertl, just like just about everyone else on the Sharks, was among the players disgruntled with how the teams handled, or rather failed to handle, Kane's conduct. There is reason to believe that if the Sharks don't find a way to address their culture, which was once one of their strong suits, then Hertl might not be interested in sticking around. Now, this might be another reason to believe that Evander Kane might just get bought out even if he's cleared of the betting allegations, but even if that is the case, it's still going to be extremely hard to buy out Evander Kane, and his buyout recapture penalty is going to be a lot for the San Jose Sharks to handle. So, in every single situation, it's an absolute loss for the San Jose Sharks, and now they have their top six centermen, and arguably their most complete player right now, just basically saying, if they don't get rid of Evander Kane somehow, he doesn't want to be there anymore, and he wants to go to a different team and have his future with a different organization. To me, that is super important for all this context because, again, while they don't have to trade him right now, they could trade him later in the season. I think that means a lot with Tomas Hertl potentially coming into this next season with San Jose. If Evander Kane is there, I don't think he'd really want to be a part of it, and again, could end up potentially just asking for a trade. Now, there's some more banger quotes here from Kevin Kurz that give us a great example of what Hertl is thinking right now, and he says this: moving on from Kane would seemingly help in that regard, but right now it's unclear whether that's something the Sharks will be able to do. If nothing changes, logic would dictate that Hertl might prefer to go to a contending team at some point this season and then hit the open market next summer. Hertl and Kane are, incidentally, both represented by agent Craig Oster. So there you go. Super interesting news on Hertl, and he might be a guy that maybe prefers to be a trade deadline acquisition, maybe during the offseason, but it's obvious that if Kane is not gone, if he's not off the team in some capacity by the start of the season, Hertl might just want out, and again, to go to a contending team and potentially sign as a big guy this next year, or after this next year. So I think when it comes to Tomas Hertl, at least, I think most likely what will happen is it'll be likely a trade deadline deal, but again, if Evander Kane's still on that roster by the season starts, Tomas Hertl might just give up, ask a trade, and try to get to a contending team as soon as possible. Because as of right now, even Evander Kane being the good player that he is, the San Jose Sharks are not a contender, and I don't think are going to be close to making the playoffs this next year. And I think for Tomas Hertl, it would be smart to just hedge your bets, go to as good of a team as possible, and try to make it work. And this is a guy that is in the prime of his career. He's 27 years old, and even though he's dealt with some pretty big injuries, he still has a lot to prove and a lot of time left to play. And I feel like with Tomas Hertl, being on the Sharks team and being around guys like Evander Kane is just simply not worth it. Now, the Montreal Canadiens angle in all this, I think, is certainly fascinating. This is a team that, if Tomas Hertl is truly made available, would definitely be one of the first teams to go after him. We've already heard some trade rumors when it comes to Tomas Hertl in the past, so it's obvious there's a lot of team interest and a lot of NHL interest as well. And when it comes to Montreal, I think he'd be a perfect fit. We were talking about Christian Dvorak in the last video, and I think Christian Dvorak would be a good fit as a second-line center, but Tomas Hertl could truly give the Montreal Canadiens some good scoring punch, some good physicality, some good leadership, and would give them a lot more versatility than they would have before, even with Christian Dvorak, I personally think. Now, I think when it comes to Tomas Hertl, he'd probably still be the second-line center behind Nick Suzuki, but he could give that first line a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more time to breathe, and would give that second line a lot more fluidity. To me, when it comes to Montreal, if I'm them, especially if you get some picks back in the Carolina trade or the Carolina offer sheet, to me, it makes the most sense to go after a big guy like that. Christian Dvorak would be good, but if you're going to splurge on a guy, Tomas Hertl might be the guy I go for. Now, in that situation, I was strictly talking about the player. I think Tomas Hertl is definitely better than Christian Dvorak. But the contract is where things get a little bit more interesting. When it comes to Tomas Hertl, he will be a UFA after this next year, and he'll be right in the prime of his career at 28 years old. This is a guy that I don't think the Montreal Canadiens would be able to sign, at least with the cap structure being as it is right now with Montreal. So it would most likely be a rental or a one-year guy to bring onto the team and fix the center solution for the now. To me, it's not a long-term solution, especially since I don't see Hertl signing in Montreal or Montreal being able to make that work. So it would likely be a one-year Montreal fit. And even though that'd be great, and I think for Montreal, if they're trying to win now, Tomas Hertl would be the best option for sure, it makes it a lot more confusing after this next year and just kind of postpones the problem for the Montreal Canadiens. Meanwhile, for Christian Dvorak, he has 4 years left at $4.5 million or $4.45 million and would be locked up at a pretty reasonable cap hit. So even though Dvorak might not be the better player, he has a lot more security, and the Montreal Canadiens can make something like that work. Meanwhile, for Tomas Hertl, the chances of re-signing him in Montreal are pretty low in my opinion. And especially when you consider that both Nick Suzuki and Alexander Romanov are RFAs after this next year, it makes it a lot harder of a situation to actually sign Hertl. It's not impossible by any means, but you'd be having to get rid of some major cap space on top of the guys you already are signing, and it would make a confusing situation cap space-wise for the Montreal Canadiens. So when it comes to Tomas Hertl, he would be a lot harder to manage and a lot harder to manage long-term. Meanwhile, for Christian Dvorak, you have some job security there. You have him on the lineup for the next 4 seasons, and you can have him fully into that organization for the next 4 years. So to me, in terms of security, I would go Christian Dvorak, but again, when it comes to Montreal, it's obvious, especially with the free agency signings, that they're trying to win a lot more at this point now. So for me, it's kind of an interesting dilemma. Do you go for the win now situation, Tomas Hertl? Do you go for the more longevity project in Christian Dvorak? There's a lot of ways that Montreal can go, but if they are truly trying to win now, Tomas Hertl is the better option, and I think that's pretty obvious at this point. Now, for the Montreal Canadiens, they might not even want to sign Tomas Hertl long-term. He's had some pretty big knee injuries over the past few years with ACL and MCL injuries that have put him back in terms of actual play, but the stats don't lie. He's still been a very consistent and very productive player when he is healthy and in the lineup. This last year, he was just brilliant in the second half especially, but he ended up getting 43 points in 50 games played. The year before that, 36 points in 48 games played, but in 2019, he was just brilliant, getting 35 goals, 39 assists, 74 points in 77 games played. Now, I'm going to propose a mock trade between the Montreal Canadiens and the San Jose Sharks, and one of the big components that Kevin Kurz talks about in a potential Tomas Hertl trade is that San Jose wants a solid young player that can play on the roster now, so that's going to be a big part of this potential trade. And to me, when it comes to the actual trade itself, of course, going to the Montreal Canadiens is Tomas Hertl, but what goes back to San Jose is even more interesting in my opinion. Going back to the Sharks, I have the first round pick from the Carolina Hurricanes trade, Ryan Poehling, and a third round pick in 2023. To me, this balances it out quite a bit. San Jose gets a first round pick. They get a guy like Ryan Poehling, who it can be a really solid centerman at the NHL level and could be maybe a light Tomas Hertl maybe in the future, and it gives them some flexibility in terms of cap relief and everything. So I think it pretty much does everything that San Jose wants it to be, and they get a first round pick in a really, really good draft, and they get Poehling, who could be really solid as well. So I think it checks out all the boxes, and for a rental, I think this is a pretty fair price. Now, it could be more on top of this. There might be like a second on top of this, or maybe it replaces the third round pick, but I think this is pretty close to what we would actually see, and again, Poehling would be the big NHL-ready young player that Montreal gives away. And if I'm the Montreal Canadiens and I'm truly in this win now window and I want to win this season and I want to get back to that Stanley Cup final and eventually win it, Tomas Hertl is a brilliant bet. A guy who's been so good in the playoffs, so good in the regular season, when healthy, and could be so good as a second-line center, especially if I was Montreal and I was only able to give a first-round pick and a guy like Poehling, who, yes, would be a part of the center core next year, but wouldn't be a huge loss, and like a third or a second-round pick. To me, it's not that bad for Montreal, and they still keep a ton of their brilliant, fantastic prospects. They're not able to get, they don't give up a guy like Cole Caulfield, they don't give up a guy like Romanov. I don't think it would happen anyways, but they don't give up a guy like Kaden Guhle or a Josh Brook or any of these guys that would be pretty valuable for the system going forward. None of those guys are included, just Poehling, and to me, personally, I think it's a price that is worth paying, especially for Montreal if you're trying to win right now. Tomas Hertl is the best option, simply put, and especially come playoff time would be so good for Montreal. He would be kind of a little bit more of the Philip Deneau kind of player for the Habs in that way, but again, will provide so much value in both areas, offense and defense, and again, I think that's a pretty fair trade for a rental that would help the Habs with a big weakness they have right now. But I think it really is an interesting question. Let me know in the comments down below. What would you prefer, the longevity of Christian Dvorak or the short-term gain of Tomas Hertl? And what you think the prices would end up being on both of those guys, of course. Let me know all your thoughts. But for me personally, as long as the Habs get somebody that can be a second-line center completely, I would be pretty happy about it. If it is a Christian Dvorak or it's a Tomas Hertl, somebody that can fill that role to a complete end. And to me, I still think you could go into the season with Suzuki, Poehling, Evans and Paquette and be okay at best, but I think Montreal needs that extra push when it comes to center positions. It's really their only big weakness right now if Kotkaniemi doesn't get matched, and to me it's Montreal's most urgent problem. If it is a Christian Dvorak, I'll be happy. If it's a Tomas Hertl, I'll be happy as well. As long as somebody goes to Montreal, I think they'll be a lot better this next season, and I think will be a lot more complete. I mean, their wingers are great, their defense is solid, their goaltending will hopefully be healthy next year. Really, the centers are the only big problem, and if they fix that, I think they could, once again, be a playoff team. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you have not already. Of course, comment down below, what do you think about a Tomas Hertl trade fit with the Montreal Canadiens? Would you rather go for Christian Dvorak? Would you rather go for a guy like Tomas Hertl? Let me know all your thoughts. And what do you think about the mock trade? Is it an overpay, underpay? Would you do it? Let me know your thoughts. Share this video with your friends. Get it out there to all the hockey and Habs fans you guys know. And click on this card for all of my hockey prospects talk right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.